Welcome to Tommy Solo's Famous Friends. This is where I get to chat with people that I've encountered in the entertainment world over the years, most of whom are all just a little bit more famous than I am. And today's guest certainly fits that bill. He's a lot more famous than I am. Please welcome to the show, world-renowned bass player and lead singer from the Stampeders, Ronnie King. Welcome to the show, Ronnie.
Thank you very much, Tommy. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm doing just fine, as best as we can in times like these. So, people that know you obviously know about the Stampeders, but there's a lot more to Ronnie King than just the Stampeders. I know that you were born in Holland and made your way over here as a young boy. What can you tell us about the early years before the Stampeders?
Well, me and my family, mother and father and two older brothers, I was born in Rotterdam, all of us were, and came here, Canada in 1955, took by boat to Halifax, and trained from Halifax to Calgary, etc., and basically did my schooling here, or the continuation of. I think I did 1 or 2 years in Holland of, kindergarten, whatever it was, and like that. So, at about age 13, I took an interest in guitar, and my father was a barber. And he was able to purchase an acoustic guitar used from his boss, his barber boss. And I remember laying in my single bed at the home we had bought and whatnot, and he was standing in his underwear, and I was sleeping, and he woke me up with the one string that was on the guitar, doing, 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 in his underwear, going, "Here, look what I got you." So I took that one string and I got with my friends and I said, "Oh my God, you're kidding!" And we kicked around with some some of the songs we were really digging, the Everly Brothers or Orbison and whatnot. And I would be able to, by ear, get the note of the tune that was being played. Let's say Orbison, da 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 da. I would just be going da 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 da, and I would find the key to it. And my buddies were going, "Hi, how are you doing that, man?" I said, "Well, can't you hear that? That's where it's going." So then, of course, I got a full set of strings and got with a buddy here in Calgary, and we started doing the instrumentals of the day by the Ventures, the Fireballs, and the Cliff Richards and the Shadows, and all instrumental songs. And we started to get to be able to play a night and go out and do a gig and whatever at 14 years old, sort of thing, and so on. So that got good enough, and then it came to be that, the early years we were called the Echoes, and then Echo Tones, and the manager that ended up managing the Stampeders managed that band. He was the one that changed it to Echo Tones, and then he came up with this fluorescent paint and so on else, and sombrero hats. We taped our Stratocasters and whatnot, taped like with gaffer tape, and painted them all up with the fluorescent paint, drumsticks, everything you could possibly imagine. And then we got 3 or 4 black lights aimed at the band, and the audience was going, "How the hell are they glowing like that?" So he came up with the name, the Paintbrushes. We said, "Geez, come on, man, what kind of name is that?" "Well, it'll go." So that's how that came to be, and eventually Stampeders. Yeah, that band broke up, and our manager went to, he was also a promoter on local television, Guys and Dolls, every Saturday afternoon. Kind of a Dick Clark sock hop kind of thing, And he said, "Well, I need a new band to be the host band, the house band on the Guys and Dolls TV show. So, we'll have you guys do it, the Paintbrushes and whatnot." So we did it for a little while till we broke up. And then he got this other band that used to come see us at our house gig at this at this community. That was a part of a gym of a school that was no longer being used, but we were able to use the gym, and we'd fill it to 300 kids, and et cetera. And, well, I know I'm scrambling and walking all over the place, but it was fun times. But this little band that came to see us all the time, they were called The Rebounds, with Kim and Rich Dodson and Brendan Little and so on. And then we would, from this little house gig that we had for Friday, Saturday nights, we would say, "Okay, we got to go do a one-nighter. Who can fill in for us?" "Hell, the Rebounds can." Yeah. "We're ready to rub out the Paintbrushes. We're going to call ourselves I forget what it was, but then that band broke up, the Paintbrushes broke up, and Mel took the rebounds and added my brother and eventually me because, we need some entertaining and whatnot. And I get entertained quite a bit along with my brother and so on, but more so than the others. That was always my forte, my specialty, entertaining than someone else. That's why I'm not as good with technical. That's more Rich's department. He runs a professional studio, or did. So, like that.
Well, you guys certainly worked well together. And I guess there were 6 members when the Stampeders first got started?
Yes, there was. We left Calgary as a 6-man band in 1966. Almost a...
Long time ago. Yeah.
Almost a devil's warning there. All 6s. And we drove. We bought a used Cadillac limousine from an oil company here in Calgary that was 10 years old at the time and burnt more oil than gas. And then we rented a U-Haul trailer. But we called the car Old Smoker because, as I say, it burnt more oil than gas. And 6 of us in the back of this limousine with a window partition in the middle. Our manager didn't smoke. His wife and 2 small kids up front. Do the window up. Stop smoking, you bastards. And so we'd rehearse back of the limousine and someone else. And we were thinking we were big shots. And wait till we get to Toronto, boy, they'll see that we've already made it and someone else because we got a limousine. And the first place we played in Toronto that was booked by Ron Scripner was the El Patio nightclub in the Village across the street from, where Bernie and Gordon Lightfoot played. What the hell was the name of that club?
Editor's note, Ronnie is most likely referring to the riverboat in the old village of Yorkville, which was owned by Bernie Fiedler. And yes, indeed, Gordon Lightfoot played there many times in the early years. And we'll be right back after this.
Joni Mitchell played there, Neil Young played there, and all this commotion was going on around us in the Village. And here we pull up, and 6 guys jump out with our manager had his famous thing. Okay, hats on. What the hell? Hats on. Okay, we're trying to create an image here. Oh, for God's sakes. That's for on stage, not loading the equipment in. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, so the Stampeders happens, and in 1972, you guys appeared on Don Kirchner's rock concert. That must have been a big boost.
Oh, for sure. We were so happy to have made it in the States enough to be able to get on some American television and whatnot. The power of television in those days was very prominent in they must have made it because they're on TV, etc. I mean, ask Kenny Rogers in the first edition with their show Rollin'. Mickey Jones, who was the drummer, came to be a very good friend of mine for life. And he said, well, we never made it so big as when we got a TV show and and so on. So anyway, we did Don Kirshner's rock concert. We were also on The Dating Game, of all things. And somehow our manager, it's an American television. What the hell? And so we did The Dating Game. And we met Chuck Barris at that time, who was the producer, I think, and whatnot. And a real character for sure. So we were honored to meet him, and we were excited to be on American television. And we were the 3 bachelors. And Rich won the contest, but it was basically all staged because they had our drummer Kim take his wedding ring off and put makeup on the tan line he had on his wedding finger. So they said, look, we could get sued if we call you a bachelor and you're not. So it was staged so we could get on American television. Rich won the contest, never went on the date. But there was a real horny lady that was supposed to come along as a chaperone, looking at us 3 boys like, we're scared. Yeah, so.
That's hilarious. And it's funny that it was easier for a Canadian band to get on American TV than it was to get on Canadian radio.
Yeah, you're right. It took CRTC and someone else that started to actually, legislate. Come on, you've got to play a certain amount of Canadian radio and so on else, Canadian, recording artists, etc. Because what the hell? It's all American and British.
and so on. And a lot of the radio stations protested. Oh, well, we don't have to do that. I'll tell you what, we'll play established Canadian, Gordon Lightfoot and Anne Murray and whatnot, and then we can get away with 30% that we have to play and whatnot. Well, it's pretty soon it caught up that, the Guess Who had made it, certainly in the States and worldwide and so on else, and we had as well. And people asked, do you think it was the CRTC that helped you gain the popularity and the fame and what have you and so on else? Well, we'd like to think that it was, we were kind of on the cusp, because our very first hit was in 1970. That's why we're celebrating 50 years. It's 2020 here since first getting radio play. So we said, well, we'd like to think that as our first hit was out and getting played, etc., around the same time that it was the CRTC ruling was established, etc. So half and half, it certainly helped, but we bulldozed, and we'd like to think that we definitely would have made it with or without,
Well, I saw some of those early shows when I was just a teenager in high school, and you certainly did put on a show, and you guys were tight as tight could be. So there certainly was a lot to do with the band and you guys as performers and your talent and your show. It wasn't just the government giving you a push. You guys gave yourselves a big, big push.
Well, you're right. And so, there was no stopping us. So we bulldozed, and then we started opening in the States for all sorts of big name acts of the day: Foghat, Steely Dan, Beach Boys, Robin Trower, and it was quite exciting, and often we'd get an encore for an opening act. It was, very rare to get an encore and whatever, because they usually boo you off the stage and want to get that to headliner, of course. So we were proud of that. Yeah, we played Johnny Winter. God, it was just, sometimes they'd pair us up with another act like Johnny Winter, a real blues, rocker, southern rocker and whatnot. And here comes poppy little us, with our little pop tunes and so on. We definitely wanted to keep our sound and style and genre fresh. And then we said, look at the Beatles, they haven't just got one style. The Beatles, I heard recently that said, yeah, we used to love to listen to Motown, etc. And so with Supremes and whatnot, just great hits. But they put out another that sounded exactly the same. Well, it had the same backing band for every studio recording, I'm sure you've heard. And he said, so let's just not be that. Let's us Beatles be, different with every tune, if possible. So we took on that attitude as well.
Well, you certainly did. I mean, from Carry Me, Sweet City Woman, to Wild Eyes and Ramona, Keep Me Running Wild, those are very diverse, not necessarily the same old song every time, that's for sure.
No, exactly. And we made it with our biggest song, our global blockbuster, Sweet City Woman. And Rich, who wrote it, would rather be known. I want to be a rocker more so. I'd rather people know us for Wild Eyes and Devil You and some rockers like that. And, so we tried to aim the show more so that way. Yeah, we would, at the end of the night, do Sweet City Woman, but we would do it third last. And then we would we'd start with Oh My Lady, still kind of do Kim's writing, and then slowly sneak into something a little more raunchy and rocky, etc. But then Sweet City Woman, and then Wild Eyes, and then we used to end with New Orleans, our cover tune of New Orleans by the Isley Brothers. Said, hey, 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 yeah. And that got the crowd going, and they used to leave our concerts singing that up and go walking out the door, and I was always, Kim sang it on record, but then when we got back together, he just said, it's too much energy for me to be going, he's just too much action for him to be able to control the singing. So I said, well, look, I'm up front. I'll sing lead on it and get the crowd going, divide them in half, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how we built the show. But somewhere along the way, it was decided that we will no longer end the night with that or even do New Orleans anymore. So, but diverse was our specialty.
Well, I was at least one of those concerts where you ended out with New Orleans, and as you said, we were all singing it on the way home. So there was some magic there, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It was easy to get the crowd going because, of course, here you go, yeah, and answer back and whatnot, and then you could do all sorts of stuff with it. No, hang on. Let's divide the audience in half. Over on the right here, let's hear you do it. And, you know, that old trick.
Right. Right. Now back to Sweet City Woman. That was an interesting song and how it came to be. I understand that you rented the banjo, and I'm also curious, whose idea was it to include macaroons in the lyrics?
Richard, he wrote it, but he brought the tune in on guitar. And Ram-ba-dam Pump and Kim and I, many tunes where we would compose, whoever was the composer, he'd say, I'd like the bass to go like this, I'd like the drums to go like this. But that one in particular, he just started playing the riff, and I went, boom, 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 ba-dum, and I just fell right into it, and Kim right into the drum parts and someone else. Therefore, we sometimes dispute a little bit to say, Rich, do you think we could be a little more in on the writing end of things? And, well, too long ago. But, yeah, the banjo was an afterthought. We were in the studio doing it on guitar and whatnot, and I think our manager said, you know, there's a line in the song that says, a banjo and me, we got a feel for singing. So why don't you use the banjo to do the riff? Ram-ba-dum-bump. So Rich said, well, I don't know how to play a banjo. It's you know, it's a different tuning and all this and that. And I swear it was me that said, hey, rent a banjo, whatever. Tune it like a guitar. You'll have the sound, and you can be able to play the same chords as you do on the guitar and whatnot. So we did that. Rich went down to Long and McQuaid in Toronto. Bob Abbott was a big guy that was our big salesman there all the time. Hey, boys, bring on the ladies. One of those guys. And, and so Rich rents this 5-string Gibson, real good banjo and whatnot. Do it in the studio, etc., right? And I don't know, we rented it for a week to really establish it and whatnot. So then Richard brought it back to Long McQuaid. Now this salesman, he's telling everybody that comes in and shows any interest in banjo, well, this is the banjo that played Sweet City Woman. Yeah, here you go. And whatever. The next guy, yeah, this is the banjo that played Sweet City Woman. And nobody knows where the real one went that played it.
Oh, there were hundreds of banjos used on that song. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, boy, oh, boy. So Carry Me was #1 in Canada.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, it was really hard to get radio support in those days if you were a Canadian band. So that was an awesome accomplishment. Did Terry Brown produce that?
Yes, Terry Brown produced that and engineered. You know, actually, Mel Shaw, our manager, put his name on as producer for almost all of the early albums and whatnot. But Terry Brown was the engineer, and on that at Sunday Sound, was it? Or was that here? I forget the name of the studio, but the studio that Terry Brown worked in.
Right. Editor's note, both Carry Me and Sweet City Woman were recorded and mixed in 1971 as part of the Against the Grain album at Toronto Sound Studios. Now, back to the show.
Also used by Kenny Rogers in the first edition for their TV show, pre-records and whatnot.
Right.
But, yeah, and especially the fact that Carry Me had such an American connotation of saying home to Birmingham, Alabama. And, that caused me to write this album cut that was called Tuscaloosa Women. Because, I don't know, I just threw a dart at the map and said, there's an interesting name, Tuscaloosa. I think I'll write something that the Tuscaloosa women got a crazy way of saying that they're lonesome.
Well, if it works, and obviously it did, yeah.
Yeah, we played there and down south and someone else, and with one or two bands that were from there saying, hey, man, which one of you guys wrote that Tuscaloosa Women? I said, me. Oh, man, you don't know how dead on the money you were. That's because the women there are... and so our reputation preceded us.
No kidding. And we will hear the rest of my conversation with Ronnie King in part 2. Now, for your listening enjoyment, we have a double musical treat for you. First, Ronnie King with the Stampeders and Hit the Road Jack. And in the spirit of Christmas, which is when this episode is being re-released, we will feature Ronnie King's very special Christmas song, Happy Christmas Ever After. Enjoy.
Hello! Yeah.
Is that you?
Who's this?
Oh, Cornelius!
Oh, Cornelius!
Yeah!
Oh, Cornelius!
Listen!
My.
Listen!
Yeah, man, what's up?
I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
My girl just told me to hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Oh, woman, don't you treat me so mean. The meanest woman that I've ever seen. I guess if you say so, I'll have to pack the things and go. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Now, baby, listen, baby, don't you treat me this way, or I'll be back on my feet someday. She don't care if you do, 'cause it's understood. You ain't got no money, you ain't no good. Well, I guess if she says so, I have to pack my things and go. That's right, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. What you say? Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Don't you come back no more.
That's a story. That's a story. I don't know what to do.
I tell you, man, you really bummed me out, Cornelius. I ain't been this bummed out since 1957,
I'm
man.
hip. I'm downtrodden. Doing something to myself. Listen, my baby just kicked me out, and I have no place to stay.
Sure wish I could help you, Cornelius.
Oh, I thought I might come down there. I heard you got a big mansion.
Hold on. Hey, Ray. Cornelius says he wants to stay here for the weekend.
Hey, Wolf, my 3 minutes is just about up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cornelius, we can't handle it this weekend.
Oh, really?
Certainly nice to hear from
No,
you, man.
Bye. Wolf? Hello, Wolf? Wolf?
Holidays and another year, and all that's changed. Hope you found good cheer. Hear the children, the voices of tomorrow. Spread goodwill, make the most of love and sorrow, and there you go. That's all we need to know. Happy Christmas ever after. Mistletoe and marzipan delights. Amidst the glow, peace on earth tonight. Like a babe in a manger in the morning, born the same, we're just orphans of the storm, and there you are, twinkle little star. Happy Christmas ever after, happy Christmas ever after. And then the angels came and they began to sing, oh hallelujah. Troubadour minstrels strumming on the mandolins, oh hallelujah. people sang along, and it was wonderful, rejoicing in song. All for one, and the freedom bells were ringing. One for all, you and me together singing throughout the world. And for every boy and girl, happy Christmas ever after. Happy Christmas ever after. Together we were singing. Happy Christmas ever after. And the freedom bells were ringing. Happy Christmas ever after. It's only the beginning. Happy Christmas ever after. Happy Christmas ever after. The freedom bells were ringing. Happy Christmas ever after. Together we were singing.
Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a one-man production, meaning that I've done all the work, including recording, editing, guest acquisition, etc. The theme song for Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a clip from my original composition, The Burn. All rights reserved. And hey, if you like the show, why not help us out, buy me a coffee, subscribe, hit the like button, and until next time, cheers.